Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and wow, some great Christian films have been coming out in this year. In fact, it's almost been named the year of Bible films. Well, one that is soon to be released, I think you'll find it to be pretty inspiring. Delighted to have with us today Mike Davis. He's the producer of the new film, A Long Way Off, an inspiring story based on the prodigal son story. There he is. He's holding it up to the camera. Atta boy, Mike.
We got to promote every bit we can.
There we go. You're welcome to do it as long as you want to talk behind that. Go right ahead.
Okay. No. They might like it better.
There you go. Nice to have you with us. This is terrific. But isn't it interesting? We're getting so many Bible-based films out this year.
Yeah, I think it's, it's funny. I've been going to a number of events over the last couple of years, when we started A Long Way Off even, where it appeared that people in these events talk about, we need to make faith-based films. And I'm talking, AFM, APD, other, not necessarily faith-based events, or conferences, but there was a lot of people talking about, faith-based films and how they, have a connection and they have a solid base, kind of audience. And I think finally, to a certain extent, Hollywood is looking at it going, we should tap into those, quote unquote niche markets and those loyal audiences. I tell people, a lot of times I think as far as a genre, they're very different. But there's a similarity between horror films and Christian films in that those audiences are very loyal to those genres. And of course, you got to write and make stories and create stories that appeal to them and are in that, really understand that audience to make them. But I think that, Hollywood's kind of waking up going, hey, we're missing the boat here.
Okay, it's been interesting to watch because, on the other hand, it can be a very critical audience, as you well know, as to whether or not it's theologically correct. You know the drill, and we're coming through the whole thing with Noah. But on the other hand, they seem like they're opening their doors to more faith-based films.
Well, it's funny, historically, though, and, there was a period of time, and it's kind of like, I think we live in cyclical kinds of environments, and, in the 50s, I think it was, or 60s, there was a number of, the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston and all these big epic films were made by Hollywood. And for a long time, they were kind of like the standard until you had The Passion and some other films that came out since then. But I think that you're right. I mean, the biggest problem that they have is, making them to the audience and really paying attention to, it would have been, I think Noah could have been so much bigger, perhaps, if they had done some things. I went to see it just because I had to. But, I think they missed the boat, literally, on some aspects. I think they could have, probably quadrupled their audience and their box office if they had taken a consultant that was an evangelical or, faith-based person to say, hey, follow these guidelines. And I think it's important when you make films that you talk to people and get their perspectives, right. And so that when you're telling the story, it's the best that it can be, so that you can obviously reach that audience. There's a number of elements. You got the spiritual element, you got the financial element, you got the production quality element. So all those things have to kind of all be juggled at the same time to make it work.
All right, tell us about Long Way Off, and it's coming to the screens May 16th. Tell us about it.
Well, there's a growing buzz about this film. I'm really excited, partly because I think of the success of some of these others. And A Long Way Off is the modern-day story of the prodigal son. It's and we've really tried to follow as much as possible, those 4 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs in Luke that basically talk about, this young man asks his dad for his inheritance, and he goes to the big city and blows it, and then he has to come back and ask for forgiveness. And that's basically the story. But there's, in our rendition of it, we've kept, I think, pretty close to the biblical text, but also, of course, that we had to take some liberties in the sense that we don't know what happened when he went to the big city. It doesn't tell us what exactly he did, other than, he had was in debauchery and, lived a riotous life. So in our case, he gets involved with the mob, and, he some unsavory characters played by the very talented Mr. Robert Davi from Goonies and other films,
right,
and a very recognizable face. And so then, he loses everything and has to come back. And I think the moment that people are really tied in and really have a moment of reflection, and is when the father and the son reconnect at the end. And and I think we've tested this film and with a number of audiences, and I had a gentleman come up to me and go, you made me cry, Mike, and that doesn't happen often. So felt pretty good about that. And he said, I'm still waiting for my son to come home. So I think this movie appeals to people on a number of different levels, because either we were a prodigal, we are a prodigal, or we're a prodigal, know a prodigal, or waiting for a prodigal to come home,
How long is the film, Mike?
It's about 98 minutes.
Okay. And it's due out May 16th.
May 16th.
Where did you shoot it? Where did you put it all together?
It was shot right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I live, and in the Wake County area. Wake Forest, North Carolina, was a lot of the farm scenes were there. The big city that you see is actually downtown Raleigh, and we shot it mostly here. We did shoot a couple things, Sean Hannity from Fox News is in the movie, and so we did shoot up in New York with him, his scene, but the rest of it was all done in North Carolina. Wow.
Okay, well, coming out May 16th, we wish you the best. And how big of a showing you're going to have on the opening weekend? Do you know yet?
Well, that's there's a number of things happening. We've got a single song from the title track that's coming out to radio. We've got a Father's Day television special that kind of promotes some of the movie as well. That comes out right after Mother's Day on a number of television stations across the country. We'll also feature some of the actors like Jason Berkey, who plays the prodigal. He was in October Baby, and he's in this new another film coming out called Mother's Night Out. And so he's in that, and so he's in. We've got this Father's Day television thing coming out, and then I think the premiere right now is scheduled for about 40 cities, and but I've heard in the last couple of days that it might grow from there. So we're hopeful that the more people that hear about it can start putting it on their calendars, looking for it, and you can visit us at our webpage, which is A Long Way Off the Movie. And this is what it looks like, A Long Way Off the Movie, or on our Facebook page, A Long Way Off. You can go there and like us. That would be fantastic.
Well, best to you, and congratulations, and thank you for doing it. What's next for you? What do you think you're going to do next?
Well, thank you for asking, because I'm really excited. Of course, I'm excited about A Long Way Off. That was a project that took me about 10 years to kind of see it really kind of finally be made. It's a story that I've always wanted to tell. I think because it is such a transcending. It's a story that's been obviously 2,000 years old, but I think culturally it is very applicable. And but for me next, we're working on a Civil War era film. We are going to shoot this summer. It's based on the actual diaries of a Union soldier called Joseph Hoover, and Joseph was captured and then escaped stockade prison camp in Florence, South Carolina, and him and a buddy, being aided by slaves, made it from South Carolina all the way up to New Bern, North Carolina. And we actually have his diary from 1864. And I'm very excited because we're shooting exactly 150 years after the fact. And all of this actually happened 150 years ago in 1864. And here we are in 2014. And we're going to shoot this, and it'll come out next year during the final year of the 150th celebrations of the Civil War. And so we're very excited about that. It's going to be a fun project. So.
Wow. Well, listen, best to you. Thanks for what you do. Keep up the good work. And we're excited about this. And as it kind of goes through the theater and you get ready to put it on television, let us know. We'll put it on the Dove TV network.
Oh, I mean, it's done. If someone could contact us or, you know, off air, whatever, and we'll definitely send a screener and get it going. We've got, in the Father's Day special, we have Pele, the legendary soccer player, talking about his dad, a number of actors, Jason Berkey, Rusty Martin Jr. and his dad, who were in Courageous, are talking about the relationship of a father and son working in a movie. So a number of really interesting things. The Imperials sing as a whole. It's a fun.
That's wonderful. Hey, thanks, my friend. I love your energy. Have a good one. God bless you, pal.
Thank you.
All right, see you later. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, welcome back. Well, as you know, May 20th is the primary for the state of Oregon. There we go. And a lot of folks are running for various offices and get through the primary. And of course, in the county, Jackson County, we have several seats open for commissioner. And one of the candidates is with us today, and he's got the most interesting name that I have butchered it so many times. And Joel, you've been so kind because you said, don't worry, you're not the first one, right?
No.
Give us the proper pronunciation.
The pronunciation is Ockunzzi. It's
Ockunzzi.
3 syllables.
Okay.
Now, you being a pilot, you might remember by Oscar Charlie Kilo, Uniform November, Zulu, Zulu, India.
Well, there we go. Ockunzzi. There you go. And he has got signs everywhere. I have never seen so many signs out there. You're doing a good job on the sign thing. Well, welcome, Joe. Nice to have you. You've been around for quite a while. You've been a rancher and real estate. What decided you to go for this? And I know you ran last time, came close, but you're at it again. What's your concern here?
Well, you know, my wife and I met actually Easter weekend of 1980, and we moved here directly from there when we got married about 3 months later in July. And when I came to the Valley, again, speaking back to aviation, the only vehicle I owned was a 1956 Cessna 182. And so I flew that into the Valley, and then I hopped a United flight back to Colorado where we had gotten married, and then we drove back out and started work on the following Monday. So, so we've been in the area since 1980. All our 3 kids, Jody, Joel, and Jordan, were all born here. They all went through Grace Christian School and Cascade Christian School systems, and then they all 3 graduated from Southern Oregon University.
Wow.
So we've got a long history in the Valley in particular, and we've owned property in various areas of the Valley, from across from Ashland on the hillside up there on Pompadour Drive, to East Medford up in Sunridge Estates, and then currently have this ranch out in the North Valley. And so over time I've been involved in various types of transactions. I was the former Western Division president for a company most of my latter career life prior to getting into real estate. And I've been in real estate for the last be 10 years starting in July with a company that we kind of specialize in rural farm and ranch and commercial properties.
Well, then you've been around the county a lot.
Correct.
And you've seen it through the various cycles that we've gone through, good times and lean times and struggling times. Considering all 36 counties in the state, we seem to be fairly healthy, but we have some concerns out there. How would you prioritize the concerns of the county?
Well, our primary concern is we have this lost revenue due to the loss of the ONC timber sales that used to bring in plus or minus $25 million. So we've been having to kind of supply ourselves out of our rainy day fund, that so-called rainy day fund, and I'm happy to say that previous boards and our administrator have done an exceptional job in preparing us for a downturn of revenues and or income, and so that would be the principal concern that I have, is that we bring back more economy to the area. Secondarily, of course, is public safety, and in fact, my oldest son happens to be a Portland police officer with the Portland Police Bureau, and I come from sort of a police background family. My dad was also a executive lieutenant of a police force back in Ohio, and we've got other relatives involved. So the importance of public safety is very concerning to me as well. And then thirdly, of course, is sensible spending, watching the budget. And back to my reference to being a Western Division president, I was with a company that at the time was under probably 400 million in gross sales in the U.S., but I think nowadays they're maybe in the billion internationally. Wow. Yeah. And I had the Western Division. I had 14 Western states and British Columbia, and I had full authority for all budget management and operations, as well as sales and asset management and so forth. So I've had a lot of experience with delegation of responsibilities and budget management and those things.
Well, let's take a look at a couple things today. In fact, shortly this morning, the commissioners are meeting on this whole marijuana thing. As you know, the state says one thing, the county's looking at it another way, and then you got the feds looking over the top and saying you can't do all of this. There's a proposed moratorium on, and I'm surprised. More and more cities are saying, wait a minute, we don't want to deal with this.
Right.
Now. We don't want to do. So what's your thoughts on this right now from a county perspective?
Well, I think the moratoriums are a prudent thing to do, and primarily because of the situation of it being federally illegal. Times are changing, you know, and viewpoints on marijuana are changing, and if in fact there is and I suppose there is a medical benefit to that, I guess I wonder a little bit why it's not dealt through pharmacies, but irrespective of that, the state is allowing it. It's likely for us to have a burgeoning community of dispensaries in that regard, but I think it's important to determine what the liabilities are for the various city and county liabilities are.
So if the county comes up with a moratorium, does that give a city an opt-out?
No, not necessarily. The cities are taking their own direction on it as well. In fact, I think they took the original direction on it, starting with Medford. Cities also have licensing. The county doesn't license businesses. Well, there are permits for various things, but as you probably know, they don't license businesses. But you still have to determine where those businesses can locate, and that's the key issue. And I think that's why the board took the prudent approach to step back and say, and along with our planning director, to determine where might these things best be located in reference to all the other things that go on in the county.
Well, the other big issue, as you well know, is going to come up a lot, is the GMO thing.
Sure.
Whether or not that gets on the ballot, I guess that's yet to be seen. But
well, it actually is on the ballot.
Yeah. Well, it is. That's right. Yeah. But I've heard some ads. I'm going, well, here comes the ad war on this, you know. And where are you with that?
Well, I think it's pretty common knowledge that I'm not for the passing of that ban, and the principal reason is it is just not a cost that I think we can afford to even risk. There has been some comment on, well, from the county administrator that suggests that maybe there might not be any cost at all, and I know that the pro-ban folks believe that to be the case. My personal opinion is already cost. You know, we've had time that we've had to allocate time and cost of the commissioners and of the administrator, department heads, also the cost of even putting it on the ballot. So it's already cost the citizens of the county financially to begin with. I'm pretty convinced that it will create a lawsuit, probably the moment after it's passed or very soon thereafter, because it violates, the essence is it violates the Constitution that provides for the Free Farming Act, for farmers to be able to farm so long as they're farming legal produce or product. So I think it's highly likely that the cost of that lawsuit and the liability of the county are there, and it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money. And I also believe that there still is a mechanism that traditional farmers, and by the way, I happen to be a member of the Farm Bureau and a member of the Cattlemen's Association and the local Stockmen's Association, and there are a lot of products that don't cross-pollinate with the various things. So I think there are ways that we can coordinate our crops and harvesting and so forth. So
in your opinion, is there a GMO problem in Jackson County?
Only in the context that there's a concern. I think it's a manageable concern. They manage it in the Willamette Valley by a seed association, and the principal problem is the seed side of it. Concern that if you're growing a kale or a chard or beets for food, the harvesting situation is different than if you're growing it for a seed. By the way, even if there was no GMO in the county, those threats are there to the seed producers among themselves, because cross-pollination can occur in any way, with anything that will cross-pollinate. But for example, alfalfa won't cross-pollinate with a beet.
Okay, yeah, right. All right, so basically you're not for the ban.
No.
Let me On that, somewhat down that ag line, water, always an issue, and especially this year.
Right.
We just don't have the snowpack, and it could be quite devastating, not only in communities, but on farmers. What do you see as far as water rights and usage and availability?
Well, over the last 10 years, I've been involved in a lot of water rates review because of my involvement in rural farm and ranch land sales. And by the way, I may have, I'm one of maybe a half a dozen real estate brokers in the area that has probably been involved in more thousands of acres of land transactions in this county than anybody ever. I've probably put more boot prints on more acreage in this county throughout than probably any other candidate ever. Mm-hmm. And we get involved with a lot of water rights issues, and in fact we work with water rights consultants to determine whether someone has active rights and whether they've been applied correctly. And obviously the State Water Resources Board determines and controls the use of water in that regard. So yeah, there's a definite concern, and the concern stems also from the Klamath River Basin, because some of the water that we get for our irrigation districts over here, such as the Talent Irrigation District or the Medford Irrigation District, come from waters that drain through the Klamath River system. And of course the Indians, I should say the natives over there, have claimed time immemorial rights on that. We're going through federal issues relative to who can use the water, and that's all going to play out. So there's not only the potential drought issues, but there's also availability issues based upon who has rights to the water in general. And by the way, back in the mid-'80s, I supplied half of all the equipment that went to construct the Elk Creek Dam, which was constructed halfway, and then because of the political environment at the time, it was chosen to cancel that contract. Right. The contractor got paid off in full, and then the dam was notched with some explosives in a company that I used to be the Western Division president of later on. So, wow. But anyway, so I would have been for retaining that dam because it would have provided storage for water that we could use in drought situations.
We're going to run out of time quickly. I know that the budgets are tight. The sheriff budget may be squeezed. The library budget's certainly squeezed. Your thoughts quickly on those?
Well, I question why we put 15 libraries in the first place, but that's a side issue. They are there. They can only be used for libraries, and I don't think that they can be transferred to any other ownership, such as a city ownership, at least until 2020. So we've got these existing structures there. They can't be operated without funds. So while generally I am not for raising taxes, and in particular I'm for inducements to industry to get into the area by a reduction of taxes through enterprise zones and so forth. In this particular case, I can see the justification to vote for the library measures so that we can utilize those libraries. If the people decide that that's not the way to go, then the next thing is we'll have to privatize it, and I would be working towards that as well.
Okay. And Sheriff's Department?
Sheriff's Department, of course, I think we have a stellar Sheriff's Department. I attended the Sheriff Safety Summit on my own, and by the way, I've been volunteering. I've been on the Planning Commission for the last 9 years, and there is so much involvement in policy that comes directly from land use in our state. Senate Bill 100 back in 1974 really set the tone for how we make policy, and I think that, quite honestly, I'll be the most prepared commissioner maybe ever that has a clear understanding of how land use relates to comprehensive planning that relates to policy and legislation. But back to your comment about that, yeah, we did have a $2 million reduction in our public safety, and we're at a time where we might have to do some interagency activities as well that might be an even greater burden on it, or at least have to determine how to allocate funds for that. So I'm a strong proponent of public safety, and I'll be working with the sheriff.
All right, well, how do people get a hold of you, Joel, if they want to get involved in your campaign, support it, learn more about you?
Well, they can, we have a brand new 800 number. It's 800 Ockunzzi, it's 855 Ockunzzi. Or we also have a new number that, well, that would be the best number probably, or electockunzzi.com.
Okay. 855 Ockunzzi, O-C-K-U-N-Z-Z-I. You see the signs everywhere. Best to you, Joel. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. Compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, But at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
All right, we're back, and I just so grateful to know this man. Daniel Ogan's back with us today. He's a counselor with the E Agency. I love his spirit, and for the next couple of segments, he's going to be with us, and we're going to be talking about family traditions. And this is so important in so many, many ways. And first of all, before we get into this, how do people get a hold of you, Daniel, if they want to get connected with you and your services?
They get a hold of me by the, is the address right there?
No, I don't. Oh, I have the phone number. Oh, yeah, eagency.net. That's the, that would be the website. Phone number, I'm sorry, I had my own. Which one you want, the 951 or the 2261?
The first one, best.
All right, 541-951-4134. And we'll get that out a little bit later. But he is a counselor and open to more clients, I would assume. All right, why did you pick this subject? Why family traditions?
The concept of family tradition is a big concept. In fact, I was up to 12 o'clock last night trying to put it concisely, because actually our whole civilization rests upon our tradition. And the problem that we're facing today is it's just dissolving. And so that's why I picked the subject, because I think in my work it is perhaps one of the most important aspects of developing a sense of tradition. And as we go on in this program, I'll explain why on that.
Now, how would you define a family tradition first? I mean, we all meet at Christmas. We all have the Christmas meal at 2 o'clock on Christmas Day. Is that a family tradition?
That could be a family tradition.
Okay.
But we're going to get more deeply into that, about what that means, because the first thing is how do you define the problem? And I wrote some notes. I'm going to have to put my glasses on, but I'm going to go to the 18th century BC and the Epic of Gilgamesh to explain what was happening in that society. And if you'll bear with me. Their concept was this. This is an old example, but their civilization fell. Their idea was, fill your belly day and night, make merry. Let the days be full of joy, dance and make music day and night. These things alone are the concern of men. Meaning a total hedonistic concept.
Right.
And of course, that was the cancer in that society. And a modern example is something I think you'll find interesting, somewhat humorous in a black sense. I was watching, I rarely watch television, but I saw a program on television the other day on Good Morning America. And the actress, who I won't mention her name, she was on there, and she at one time was very popular, but her star was waning. So they had her on Good Morning America, and she said, oh, I'm going to jumpstart my career because what I've done is I'm going to pose nude for Playboy, and this is really great. She was just talking about how wonderful this was, and I'm thinking, what? And she said, and the person who's helping me pick the photos is my 19-year-old son. This is a modern example of where we're at. And the thing was, on Good Morning America, they applauded her.
Oh, yeah.
The audience applauded as if she was some extremely wise and brilliant human.
You know, back to your earlier definition, your first one there was it party, food, full bellies, and all that? We just, the news has been filled with, this has been spring break, and as you know, college students head off to Panama City and some other places for spring break. And the decadence that goes from sun up to sundown on these beach parties, you look at this and you go, it's just totally out of control. It's the level of behavior and appetite far beyond anything that you would consider healthy.
It is paganism on steroids.
Yeah, well, you said it. That's exactly right.
And one of the problems we're facing is what we call postmodernism, nihilism. And Nietzsche said this is our concept today. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. This is nihilism. I mean, nothing is true. There's no absolutes. And if we're going to do an analysis very quickly of what I am facing as a Christian counselor, is in nihilism, when I talk to people, there's no objective in their lives. There's no absolute truth. Man is elevated to the center of reality. There's a loss of discernment. A great loss of discernment. What is right? What is wrong? What is good food? What is bad food? Meaning for the soul. And we have that problem. And modern day society, and our society, looks at man as a highly evolved animal, basically. And there's no absolute standards. Everything is relative values. And now we're going to get into tradition. The nuclear family is, in today's society, is considered a product of social evolution, not a sacrament. Not something that God set aside. And so when we're going to get later on into tradition, we're going to see why that is the salt. And
if a culture or a human being doesn't believe in an afterlife, no, for us Christians, they don't believe in heaven, that when you die, that's it, then the goal has to become, let's turn this place into heaven. And the only way this place can be into heaven is to make me the God with no restrictions.
Exactly.
And
you hit it right on the nail head, Perry.
And so that's what the culture is saying. Become your own God, and let's throw off all rules and regulations. Certainly the Bible, that's old-fashioned, and let's get rid of that. Therefore, decadence rules, because the bad side, the dark side of an unregenerated heart and life is that type of style. And so that's where we are today, and it's mind-boggling. And yet, in the heart of those people, there's a hunger.
There is. We're not.
You get it. I get it every day. There is a hunger for truth. There has to be something more than what I think I'm doing here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what you're describing is absolutely true, that there are no absolutes. Let me ask you a question. In today's society, and I work with systems, the concept of an absolute truth, people hate this. And it's even difficult for us Christians to say, this is the absolute truth, because we are made to feel as if we're not part of what's really happening now. Stodgy, old-fashioned.
Right.
And anything new, anything youthful, anything that's hedonistic, that has value. But if you confront somebody and say, look, there is an absolute truth, tell people this, or not tell them, but put this out there with humility, and it really disturbs people.
When you say that, it suggests boundaries.
Exactly.
It suggests I can't do what I'm doing, because if the truth says I can't do it, then I don't want to believe in that truth. I'm looking for the truth that I'm okay the way I am, and I want to do what I want to do. And the conflict, I mean, that's been around since the beginning of man. But it seems, Daniel, to be winning. It seems to be dominating the culture.
I can feel it. You can feel it.
Yeah.
If you're really honest,
yeah,
your spirit is discerning something that has happened.
Right.
And one of the things that is a result of this, of loss of tradition, is, and here are some of the things that, like I told you, I was up till 12 o'clock last night, there's a loss of tradition, meaning structure. There's sexual anarchy. That is deep, meaning that's a part of creativity in us, and that has been bent. Innocence has been lost. Pandora's box is on the computer. There's the loss of the sacred. And this all takes down into the breakdown of the family, which is the foundation. not only of a Christian nation, but of culture itself.
All right, I got to take a break here. I want you to now transition this into why family traditions are so important. Because if they are instituted from a godly biblical perspective, they have immense response. All right, we'll be right back. Our good buddy, Counselor Daniel Ogan's with us from the E Agency. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
All right, we're back, and Daniel Ogan's with us today. He's a counselor, Christian counselor with the E Agency. And Daniel, you work out of Grants Pass, right?
Grants Pass, Ashland, Medford.
Oh, he's mobile.
I'm mobile.
All right, 541-951-4134 is his phone number. So you may want to get a pencil. I'll give it to you one more time, and then at the end of the program. 541-951-4134. And I love his gentle spirit. We're talking about family traditions and how the culture is done away with a lot of things and how important it is. Do you have family traditions that can carry on from one generation to another? And I look back in my family and we kind of laugh about it, but you know, then you realize it's a part of you.
Exactly.
It is part of your makeup. It's a part of your thinking. And so we know the culture has collapsed around us. We have a lot of blended families. Therefore, if there were family traditions, maybe they got lost in that process. How important is it for us to bring these traditions back into focus and back into practice?
I think that it's perhaps one of the most essential challenges we have. And let me give you an example. First of all, in my own life, years ago when I became Orthodox, an Orthodox Christian, I entered a church that still celebrates the calendar, the concept of sacred time. Our whole year is broken up into traditional things you do. And it's, I was reading some statistics last night, and during the medieval times, there was 150 days set out in the church calendars for fasting, for prayer, for holiday, for celebration, for rest. And all these were they had a traditional sense to it, and it was interwoven within these people. Tradition was what carried from one generation to the next. It is what tied me in with my great-grandfather. It's what constituted the family. And when we're looking at our nihilistic culture today, what is one of the hallmarks of this is a nothingness, a tie into nothingness, a leap into the void, so to speak. And so tradition and the implementing of tradition within our families and within our church, and take it serious, is extremely important, very important.
Wow. All right. So, what are you saying to families? What are you saying to parents? What do you want them to get out of this?
What I'm saying to parents is that I have great compassion for parents. This has got to be one of the most difficult times in history, maybe. There is a darkness, and parents are pulling their hair out. Oh gosh, what do we do? They're being influenced by school, by television, by internet. There's such a pull to break up the whole concept of the nuclear family into traditions, like the tradition of respect, of saying sir, opening the doors for the elderly. There's so many things that it would take me hours to explain, but what I say to parents is this: start off slow, start implementing, and be work on it day by day. Don't give up on this.
To find something that the family unit can rally around. So often it's around holidays. I think even the secular celebration of holidays eclipse the sacred part of holidays. I think it would behoove families to say, all right, let's put the death, burial, and resurrection back into Easter. Okay, let's put the Immaculate Conception and birth back into Christmas. We can start there. Maybe we can start with every year. We're going to, on this weekend in May, we go to this place as a family. You know, you set those traditions in place.
Exactly. You know, when our dear Lord, his death and resurrection, not only did he redeem us, he redeemed time, sacred time, the eternal time. And tradition ties into the sacred. And the best way I can explain sacred to anybody, everybody understands this analogy. I'll ask somebody, do you have a picture of your daughter? Well, yeah, let me show you. And I would say to them, well, what if I tore this up or stepped on it? Well, you'd have a problem. And then I'd say, well, it's just a piece of paper. They go, no, it's a picture of my daughter. What he's saying is, no, this piece of paper has been made sacred because of my love. It's no longer a piece of paper. That's what sacred is. And traditions are part of that, are tying our family in to sacred time, the sacredness of a family. And that's what traditions do. They're the salt that keeps us together.
Is praying together, is that a tradition?
Yes, it is. It's a beautiful tradition. During this time of that we're going through Lent, me and my wife have made a special effort every night to take our two children and to really do the prayer with them. That's part of our Lent. And going through Lent, I explained to them what this is all about. It's not just about giving something up. It's about looking at yourself, coming back to our first love for Christ, repentance, a renewal. And during Pascha, during the celebration, it's Christ is risen. He has taken all those things that seem impossible, and he has resurrected them. And in the family, I have great faith in this, that it can happen. It's not impossible. Through Christ, all things are possible.
What about the tradition? Not the obligation, and certainly not the commitment, but the tradition, the love of just taking your family to church.
That simple thing. You know, children don't always like to go to church. It's not easy. You know, you're taking them to school all week, and then Sunday morning, oh my gosh, I just want to rest. You're tired. But the church is absolutely, it's our community, our foundation. Christ died, gave himself for the church. And in our Orthodox faith, we take this very serious, that is part of our tradition. That's what we carry. And this is what I'm implementing with my children. You know, that they are tied into the past also with me, hoping they will carry it forward to their children.
You know, there's a movie, very famous movie, Fiddler on the Roof.
I love that movie.
And there's a song in there, Tradition.
Yes.
But as cute as all of that is, the seriousness of that, in the Jewish community, there is an incredible family tradition of legacy of passing that on to their one generation to the other. Fast forward to where we are today, and just in the modern church, it appears, I don't want to be critical, but it appears we're not taking seriously of passing those traditions, the purpose, the reasoning, the passion behind it, the commitment behind it to the next generation. It's kind of like, get it on your own.
That's a great observation. And I believe that part of the problem is we have lost the concept and the understanding of what is sacred. The sacred, see? It's lost in many ways.
Have we made God cool instead of sacred?
In many ways.
I don't mean that to be disrespectful.
No, and I know that, okay.
I'm trying to be descriptive.
I will say this.
Yeah.
I remember in my younger years,
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah.
You know, God help us.
Yeah.
But as we mature, that's why we need the elders. I mean, we have to be sensitive to teenagers and, you know, not allow them a little freedom.
Yeah.
But as we get older, we realize that we're in a battle. And I know they also, I'm not demeaning them, but we are in a battle. What is one of our greatest tools? Our traditions.
Yeah.
And the traditions passed down through the church and through the family.
When you're counseling young people that have gone prodigal, at what point do you try to bring the parents in on that?
Okay, that is a pretty deep question because
and you only got 90 seconds.
In general, when that person allows it.
Okay.
I'm ready to face my parents.
But it is part of your thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you're doing is bringing the traditional family back together.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, that is, you're right, bringing them back.
Okay. Well, Daniel, you're an inspiration. I really appreciate this. I would hope, especially as we go into the Easter season, that every family would evaluate their own traditions as it relates to the church and to Christ and to what the scriptures say. And are you defaulting that responsibility just to the church, or are you taking the leadership responsibility in those traditions and leading your family into that? We go to church, we do this because, you know.
That's some very good thing to meditate on.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, thank you. Again, let me give you his phone number if you want to get a hold of him. He is a counselor with the E-Agency. You can go to the eagency.net or 541-951-4134. Did you get that? 541-951-4134. And he works in various areas throughout Southern Oregon, and you can get a hold of him. Thanks, my friend. Blessings on you.
Thank
Keep
you,
up the
sir.
good work. Okay.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.